When you hear the word Iraq, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably the headlines from the last few decades, right? But the real story of this land, man, it's one of the oldest and most epic tales in all of human history. It's a story of incredible firsts, mighty empires, and yeah, some devastating collapses. So let's just dive right in and explore this incredible, millennia-long journey of the Cradle of Civilization.
You know, our story doesn't start with cities or kings or writing. Nope, it starts right here, in a cave. This is Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq. And inside, archaeologists found Neanderthal remains that go back 65,000 years. Let that sink in for a second. That's more than 30 times older than the pyramids in Egypt. This isn't just history, we're talking about deep, deep time. It just shows you how long this region has been a home for us.
Okay, so from those super ancient beginnings, we're going to jump forward tens of thousands of years to a moment when this very land sparked a revolution that would literally change the human story forever.
This area became known as Mesopotamia, which literally just means the land between the rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. And this fertile crescent, as our sources put it, inspired some of the most important developments in human history. I mean, think about it. This is the spot where the fundamental building blocks of our society, farming, cities, even law, were first hammered out.
The amount of innovation that happened in Sumer is it's mind-blowing. And you gotta ask, why here? Well, the land was so incredibly fertile that it created these huge food surpluses. And that freed people up to do other things, to specialize. So right here, in this one little corner of the world, humanity comes up with the wheel, the first cereal crops, writing, city-states, written laws, even the foundations for math and astronomy. This wasn't just a random list of inventions. This was the complete toolkit for building a complex society from the ground up.
And this explosion of genius, it didn't just stay local. Oh no. It laid the groundwork for something new, something powerful, something that would define the next few thousand years, the empire.
What's so wild is seeing how each of these powers built on the one that came before it. It's like this imperial momentum. It all starts with Sumer, that's the foundation. Then you get the Akkadian Empire around 2300 BC, which is pretty much considered the world's first empire. After them, the Babylonians, famous for guys like Hammurabi and his law code. And finally, the Neo-Assyrians, who a lot of historians call the first true world empire. It's just a relentless story of rising ambition and scale.
And this is believed to be the man himself, Sargon of Akkad, a total game changer. He did something that nobody had ever done before. Before Sargon, the world was just this patchwork of cities, all fighting each other. He went out, conquered them, and mashed them all together into one state. He created this new model of centralized power that would be copied for thousands of years.
Now, let's fast forward to the Neo-Assyrians to see how this whole empire thing evolves. Look at this. This wasn't just some regional power anymore. The Neo-Assyrian Empire was a sprawling superpower. It stretched all the way from modern-day Iran to Egypt. And they did it all with a sophisticated and, frankly, terrifying military machine that was just completely unmatched at the time.
So after the Assyrians finally fell, the city of Babylon had this incredible comeback. Under kings like Nebuchadnezzar II, it became this legendary place of wealth and power, the absolute heart of the most powerful kingdom in the Middle East. But, you know, this spectacular high point, it was also the end of an era.
Because in 539 BC, everything changed. The Persian Empire, led by Cyrus the Great, rolled in and conquered Babylon. And just like that, thousands of years of self-rule came to an end. This was the beginning of a long, long period where this land would be a prize for other, bigger empires to fight over.
But this story is a cycle, right? A story of rise and fall. So after centuries of being ruled by Persians and then Greeks and others, the region would have this spectacular second dawn. It would rise once again to become the intellectual and cultural center of the entire known world.
This all happened with the rise of the Abbasid Caliphate in the 8th century. Now, they took control of a massive Islamic empire, and they had to make a really important decision: where to put their capital. And they chose to build it right here, in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia. They knew the history, the strategic importance of this land.
So the Abbasids founded Baghdad. And listen, this wasn't just any city. For centuries, it was the undisputed global hub for science, culture, philosophy, you name it. We're talking about a bustling metropolis of over 1 million people at a time when cities we think of as ancient, like London or Paris, were really just small towns. Baghdad was the intellectual capital of the world.
But just as this civilization hit its absolute peak, it was about to face a cataclysm,
a storm that was sweeping in from the east and was about to shatter absolutely everything. In 1258, the Mongol armies, led by Hulagu Khan, showed up at the gates of Baghdad. The siege that followed was just notoriously brutal. The city, this beacon of civilization for centuries, was completely unprepared for the sheer ferocity of the attack. And with its fall, the Islamic Golden Age came to a sudden, violent, and just tragic end.
The scale of the destruction, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Historians figure that anywhere from 200,000 to a full million people were killed. The great libraries, which held centuries of accumulated knowledge, were just destroyed. They say the ink from all the books turned the Tigris River black. And this wasn't some temporary setback they could just bounce back from. As the source material puts it, and it's pretty grim, the city has never regained its previous preeminence as a major center of culture and influence. The blow was just that devastating, that permanent.
I mean, if you really want to understand the long-term impact, just look at this comparison. Back in 800 AD, during the Golden Age, the population of Iraq was probably around 30 million. 1,000 years later, after centuries of conflict and decline, it had collapsed to just 5 million. A staggering fall.
So, how does a civilization even begin to recover from something like that? The long, difficult journey towards the modern nation of Iraq was really forged in the fire of these competing empires.
For hundreds of years, this land was no longer the center of its own story. It was a contested borderland, basically caught in a tug-of-war between the Ottoman and Persian empires. From the 16th century all the way up to World War I, it was mostly an Ottoman province, a frontier that was constantly being fought over.
The end of World War I meant the end of the Ottoman Empire. And that brought in the British, who took control under a League of Nations mandate. This whole process eventually led to the creation of a brand new political entity. In 1932, the Kingdom of Iraq was officially established. It gained its independence, and that really marks the birth of the modern nation-state we know today.
But the 20th century was, well, it was incredibly turbulent. You have the British mandate right after the war, then you get independence in 1932 under a king, but that monarchy itself gets overthrown in a pretty dramatic revolution in 1958, and a republic is declared. It was this series of rapid, often violent transformations that really set the stage for all the complex events of the late 20th and early 21st centuries.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, you see this incredible story of spectacular rises and just devastating falls. It's a land that has given the world some of its most fundamental ideas, and at the same time has endured some of history's most profound tragedies. And all of that leaves us with this one final, crucial question. After thousands of years of rising and falling, what will be Iraq's next chapter?